Good evening, everyone. My name's Paul Monfort. I'm actually head of operations, not head of property, so just a slight correction, but I am responsible for managing the property services. I've been with Hammersmith and Fulham now for just coming up a year. My experience and background in the majority is housing background. I did have a slight stint working for 5 years for the London Fire Brigade, but returned back to housing last year. Main remit is obviously managing the operations of the repairs and maintenance service, managing the contract with Mighty, and basically also overseeing other contracts such as the lift contract.
Good evening. Hi, I'm John D'Souza. I'm the Senior Partnering Manager for Mighty, and I head the contract here in Hammersmith and Fulham. Been in the industry about 30 years, started at the council, direct labour, came up through the ranks and worked on the contracting side for about 10 years now. A lot of what I did was to go into councils and transformational change for partnership management, and so that's a bit of my background before I came here. Here in Mighty I've got about 270 staff, direct labour staff working here, as well as subcontractors, so that's kind of a flavour of what we're here for.
Well, thank you both very much indeed for joining us this evening. Let me kick off this part of the proceedings by putting a question to Paul. Paul, what is the overall size of the current annual repairs budget here, and how does it break down between responsive repairs, void repairs and planned maintenance? Okay,
thanks for the question. Basically, we've got two sort of spend revenues. Obviously there's a revenue budget and a capital budget. In regards to the revenue budget, we have an annual budget of about 14 million, and that is split into approximately 13 million on revenue repairs works, and that includes that whole cost is not completely Mighty. There is some other contracts that sit outside of the Mighty contract. But in regards of the 12.8 million, that covers basically our repair service to the housing properties, both internal and external. Covers our gas servicing, electrical testing, also things such as property inspections. Communal wise, that covers things like lighting, reactive repairs across the stock as well, roof repairs, window repairs and that sort of thing, and also covers other things like health and safety works, fire safety works, and the sort of gamut of issues that go across the estate. There's also some other areas in regards of the Mighty look after our communal gas and M&E. They also do provide a handyman service, which on the sheltered schemes, and as part of their remit is also to carry out electrical testing, both internally to our properties and also to the communal areas. Outside of the Mighty contracts, probably our main contract is our lift contract across the borough, and also we do have various smaller health and safety type contracts such as asbestos, that sort of thing. In regards to voids, we've got a budget of about 1.15 million, and if we on average, in regards of last year's performance, we sort of delivered approximately about 360 voids, standard voids last year. In regards of capital spend, we basically have a budget of around 54 million on capital spend. And just to give you some idea of the type of work that we've done, just looking at some of what we've done last year, we spent 50 million in regards of capital and planned works. And just some of the headline things is that we basically delivered 550 kitchens and bathrooms across the White City estate. We delivered 142 what were ex-disposal voids, and they've been brought back on stream. We delivered a cyclical DEX program and a planned maintenance program, and we basically delivered that to sort of 45 blocks of flats across the estate, and 300 plus sort of converted houses and street properties. We also, outside the Mighty contract, last year we delivered modernisation of 35 lifts across the borough. In regards of aids and adaptations, we spent 1.1 million. And probably, again, along the health and safety lines, for fire safety, we spent approximately sort of about £2 million in regards of upgrading fire safety across the blocks, fire doors and such like.
This is probably an unreasonable question, but just to give us a flavour of it, if I were to ask you, what is the single main item of expenditure under responsive repairs, what would you say the single main item of expenditure?
I think probably it's difficult to say. I'd say we've got three main areas of expenditure, I think, in regards of what are issues. Roofs, I think in regards of probably when we're looking at investment across the stock, the roofs, while we had the Decent Homes programme, roofs was probably an area where investment wasn't as high as it could have been. So we do spend quite a bit in regards of roof repairs, roof modernisations. I think last year, in regards of the planned programme, we renewed the roofs completely to 5 blocks, and plus we also done major overhauls and renewals to probably 200 sort of houses and street properties. So quite a major expenditure in regards of that. Other areas where certainly I think there's been an underinvestment is probably in regards of drainage. We get a lot of drainage issues across the estates, and it's certainly an area we're now looking at in regards of whether we put a planned maintenance program in for sort of annual sort of drainage clearances, whether we do stock surveys in regards of looking at whether we need to replace drainage and that sort of thing. The other main area that we do have a lot of responsive repairs is sort of damp problems across the estate. We have a lot of our stock is probably we have a lot of sort of concrete built type properties. They do suffer a lot of sort of condensation issues through cold bridging and not thermally efficient type properties. That's probably an area where Mighty obviously do a lot of work in regards of trying to deal with the condensation, but it's probably a lot of those issues are probably dealt with at source in regards of there might be a fitting of an extractor fan, might be dealing with a bit of mould, but actually on some of the blocks it's probably a lot more investment needed to look at a wholesale sort of block type job, maybe external wall insulation, major sort of heat recovery unit type works, that sort of thing.
Fine, thanks for that. Joanne?
Hi, Paul. You've touched on this a little bit, but could you say a little bit more around the extent to which the age, condition of the stock, and the lack of investment in the past may have put a burden on budgets, and what gap that might look like? And in particular, is there any other types of work like stock redesign, so roof extensions, etc., that ideally you would like to do but that you don't have the resources for?
Thank you. Certainly, I think the investment or the priorities over the last sort of probably 8, 9, 10 years has been to meet the Decent Homes targets that were set for 2010, and I think that's tended to concentrate the minds of not just this local authority but local authorities across the country in regards of doing sort of elemental replacement. So it's, we might replace windows here, roofs there, or kitchens and bathrooms. So it was very much on a sort of scattergun approach. Is probably not the best way of saying it, but it wasn't done. I don't think it was looked at holistically. I think that's left us with quite a bit of a challenge. I think in regards of some of what we've seen, we've got a lot of, across the estate, we've got a lot of flat roofs. Probably about 39% of our stock has got flat roofs. Now, looking at that, some of those properties have had sort of overhaul works, and those roofs are now sort of coming to the end of life. They're probably old asphalt roofs, probably been there 40 years, 50 years. They've had sort of repairs to get through to decent homes, but now need probably more investment to bring those up to standard, and also to increase the insulation properties and the energy efficiency of the stock. I think in regards of the investment, it hasn't sort of that has also sort of led to probably an underinvestment in the estates and the communal areas across the borough. There's lots of and I'm sure these guys here, there's lots of examples where you go across the estates and you can see that there has been an underinvestment, and I think that also provides us with major challenges in regards of how best we invest in that. The other area, again, as I say, I've approached, I think there was a lack of looking at. I think one of the main issues we've got is across the borough is the affordable warmth issues, and lots of residents being fuel poverty or in fuel poverty. And I think, again, because of the way the Decent Homes was structured, there hasn't been that look in regards of how can we meet those affordable warmth requirements and to bring more residents out of the fuel poverty. I just sort of some of the points are picked up here as well. There was a major sort of underinvestment in our lifts across the borough. We've now got a lift programme which has been running for 3 to 4 years and is due to come to an end in 2017, 2018, and that will then mean we've modernised the lifts across the borough. Roof. Oh, do apologise. Yeah. So roof coverings again is a major issue. The drainage we've talked about, and energy efficiency. I think in regards of investing in the stock, we've obviously got our cyclical and our plan programs, which means that we have a 7-year program, which means that we visit every property across the borough in that 7 years, and that is generally sort of an MOT type sort of thing. So that's overhauling the roofs, windows, and painting and that sort of thing. But we're now trying to work with Mighty as partners to look at what are the best ways to invest in the estates a lot more holistically. So we're looking at certain estates where we know we've got issues, major damp issues. So we're picking up that in regards of, okay, what's the best way of reducing that external wall insulation, doing new roofs and upgrading that. But we're also looking at the communal areas in regards of, okay, so what can we do to that to reduce ASB issues and make the place a nicer, safer place to live in. Does that answer your question?
This is to Paul. How are your budgets set and controlled, and how does the council perform against budget and performance targets?
Thank you. Basically, the budget setting exercise usually starts around October time, and it's usually we try and get it agreed by cabinet by January in the following year. So within property services, we work closely with our finance team to set the budgets, and there's two elements. A lot of because of the contract that we've got with Mighty, a lot of the budget elements are fairly fixed, because we'll have a price per property element, a price per block, that sort of thing. So there's some fixed elements, and we've also got other fixed cost areas. So for instance, the price per property is basically, it will go up and down depending on how much stock we've got. So we're able pretty much to set those fairly easily, because they're fairly fixed. In regards of the other budget set, the budgets, where we almost start on like a zero sort of type accounting and look at, okay, what do we need for that year? And so therefore, is there a growth bid needed? Do we need that budget, etc., etc. So, and we'll get to a point where we agree that the budgets, what we think the budgets are needed with our finance team. That then will be put through to our senior management team, and then obviously that becomes a report goes to cabinet, and it's usually hopefully agreed by sort of January time.
I just wanted to ask a bit about your performance targets, and is that related to the budgets as well?
Performance targets in regards of the performance targets we have are mainly set around the KPIs that are set for the contract with Mighty. I suppose their main element is that the majority a number of the KPIs are incentivised. So if Mighty meet that target, they get a percentage. I can't remember what the percentages are, but a percentage payment. And likewise, if they fail to meet the target, then it becomes, for want of a better word, a penalty. So we measure Mighty on percentage of repairs completed on time, whether there's valid gas certificates. Should say valid gas certificates is not an incentivised KPI. Percentage of appointments kept. Right first time repairs, and percentage of residents satisfied with the repair service. In regards of those performance, those targets are set within the contract, but they're also set as strategic objectives that are measured corporately. And the evidence you guys have heard is that perhaps things aren't performing so well, etc., etc. But actually, in regards of some of the performance, we've got in regards of...
Sorry to stop you there, just for clarification, KPI?
Key performance indicator.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to advise you in regards of gas safety, we've got 100% compliance in regards of that, and that's been continuing for probably, 6-7 months. We've been at that sort of level. Our percentage repairs completed on time is a target of 90%, and I think we're around the sort of 96%, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. Percentage appointments kept by the contractor is 98%, and we're hitting 99%. And right first time is basically a target of 85%, and they're hitting 92%. So and also in regards of the performance, some of that we've looked at sort of the house mark sort of benchmarks, and that sort of performance is sitting in the sort of top quartile of that benchmark. So the performance, and happy for anybody to challenge those figures and see how we get there.
Got to move on. Anthony,
thanks, Chair. Paul, this is another one for you. We're keeping you busy. My question's about relets and voids, empty properties. Now, my definition of a void is every home that comes empty from the time it comes empty to the time it's relet. So that's capital voids, revenue, repair voids, the lot. By that definition, how do you compare? How do you compare on length of emptiness and spend? And I'm also interested in the sort of specification of work that you're doing in voids at the moment, in particular whether residents are involved in any way in setting that specification, assuming there is one.
Okay. Basically, just to start, we have four types of void in categorisation. So we have a standard void, which is basically just a normal sort of day-to-day void, sort of go in, do the repairs, do the tests, and hand that back. We have a standard void plus, which is would cover things like redecorations, new kitchens and bathrooms where they're needed. We also have a technical void, which is, I suppose they're the sort of ones where we have perhaps a major damp problem in a property and we have to decant a resident to be able to carry out works to that property to remedy the defects. We also have major voids, and those are the sort of voids where perhaps we've got major roof problems, subsidence, and they're going to be high cost properties. Just in regards of the contract, Mighty have a 10-day turnaround time on standard voids, and their performance at the moment is that on average they're completing a standard void within 9.2 days. So they're doing pretty well. In regards of a couple of others on disposal voids, the target is 10 days and they're on 9.29 days for that. Major voids is a 21-day turnaround. The average turnaround time is 52 days on that, but a lot of that is because of the type of issues that are ongoing. If you've got structural problems and subsidence issues, then obviously they're the sort of things that may take longer to resolve. And standard voids with decorations we're on average about 21, 22 days. Overall, in regards of on a standard void from the tenant moving out to the keys being handed back, the target is 25 days. The average is, at the moment, we're measuring is 50 days. Now, it is skewed in regards to the fact that it actually includes all voids. So that's disposal voids, major voids, and standard voids. So there is a bit of a skew to that. So, and I did try to get an answer in regards of how we're doing on standard voids, but I didn't have time to get that. So that sort of gets in regards to where we are. We do have a relet standard in regards to voids, and there's also a performance spec built into the tender documents. The standard, the relet standard, is the general sort of clean, tidy, health and safety issues, electrical tests, repairs done, so that a resident can move back. Obviously, there might be times where from bearing it, thinking on top of my head, if 50% of a kitchen needs replacing, then the whole kitchen is replaced. I can't remember what the exact percentage is for bathrooms, but it's a similar type sort of thing. So if the kitchen needs a major replacement, that then becomes a standard plus void. In regards of whether residents have been involved in the letting spec, I don't believe they have, but more than welcome to look at that in the future.
I'd like to get some sense of quantum here in terms of maybe by month or by year, broadly how many homes are coming empty and how many of those are classified as standard voids. I'm interested in that simply because I'm a complete outsider to the borough, but I've got some sense talking to tenants around the patch that they think they see too many homes that aren't decorated. So they are indeed occupied because the people who go there have to occupy them, but they're not necessarily to any sort of high or even acceptable standard. So it is alleged.
Okay. I mean, basically, I'll give you the figures on performance from last year, if that's okay. On standard voids, we've done 284 standard voids across the year. Standard with decks, we've done 23. Major voids, we carried out 46. Disposal voids was 98. And then we got a couple of bits of mutual exchanges is 6, and then garage is 1. So overall, there were 458 voids across the year.
That's helpful. Clearly, the clear majority are without decks, which would sort of back up my feedback. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Now, I'm very conscious of time. I'm going to turn to Peter.
Thanks, Chair. Paul, again. I've got a bundle of questions here which I'm going to try and condense into their essential point, which really is to ask you to talk a bit about the contractual arrangements with Mighty, which you mentioned earlier. You're looking to partner with Mighty. So I just wonder if you could tell us what the thinking behind the contract is, how much it's a client contractor traditional arrangement and how much you're trying to get some added value from the partnership angle and what it is you get from that.
Okay, I think what I'll do is if I just give you a brief sort of how the contract's been set up in the first place, that will then sort of give you some understanding. It's a 10-year partnering contract. It's a 10-year plus 5. So we have the choice at year 10 to extend it. I think it's basically year by year for another 5 years. The objective of the overall delivering the contract is to provide a timely sort of customer focused and high quality service. That is the ultimate aim of the contract. Talked a bit about what the contract delivers. It obviously delivers a repair service, but also built into that contract is the ability to deliver planned programs of work. And what we do have, obviously we've already built in planned programs of kitchen and bathroom replacements, boiler replacements, but it also, the way the contract has been set up, it enables us to basically be very flexible in regards of looking at further investment in the stock in the future. So we're able to bring in sort of projects, say roof replacements, down to sort of reinvestment works across the estates and more holistic type work. Obviously, as we talked about, Mighty operate the 24/7 call centre, so they take all the repairs calls. They also do take calls for the other parts of the contracts we deliver, such as the lifts maintenance. They receive the calls, pest control as well. So to some extent, and so they add a bit of extra value in that respect, because obviously there's a one-stop shop in regards of who to call. The way the contract has been set up, it is a right first time philosophy, and the idea is that Mighty are responsible for it's almost like a design and build contract. So they are responsible for taking the call, diagnosing the faults, designing the solution, and then actually carrying out the solution. So it's enabled us as a council to become much more of a lean client, and so therefore our focus is more on the contract management and the quality inspections, rather than actually going out doing inspections, doing specifications, which is quite sort of time intensive. In regards of costs, as I say, we have, because of the way the contract has been set up, we do have a cost certainty in a number of areas, which makes management of the budgets easier. So we do have a price per property cost, a price per block cost, and we also have fixed basket rates for things like carrying out works to voids, kitchens and bathrooms, and boiler replacements. So again, we're able to work with sort of fixed costs. The only area that we have is an out of scope type sort of budget that we work to, and that's anything that falls out of the price per property and the price per block, and that could be, in general, that will be things like the sort of repairs to roofs and windows, which are out of scope. And again, in general, we control cost on that through a lot of the works are done via a schedule of rates. Where there's not a schedule of rates, then we ask Mighty to comply with our standing orders in regards of 3 tenders over 20,000, etc., etc.
Got any more feedback on that?
I'm just interested in the partnering side as well, and what extra you get from that. I
think for us, the long term partnering, it's. I think in regards of if you have a short term contract, you're never going to get the delivery improvements that you're looking for. I think what we're looking at in regards of a long term, this is a long term relationship, and it's, as with any journey, it's a rocky journey. You're not going to get everything right, and the journey works in regards of making sure that as a partnering team, we actually improve as we go along. So we learn lessons, and that we work together to improve the services that we provide. So that's one thing that by having that long-term relationship, we're able to do that. We're, as a client, we're able to challenge Mighty in regards of, okay, you're not doing this right. How are you going to improve on things? And also, I think it'll enable us to start looking at also driving longer-term savings on the contract as well. Part of the process is to value engineer the contract, look at ways that we can make cost savings. We also have obviously the buying power of Mighty in regards of their supply chain, which obviously enables us to drive down the cost because of the buying power that Mighty are able to bring to the party. So we're able to have better supply chain management in that respect. One of the things we're looking to do with Mighty is to actually have a number of supply chain frameworks, which are also works in one or two ways. Helps us to drive costs down, but also we start bringing the supply chain into the relationship in regards of, okay, how can you help us deliver better services? How can we how can we drive improvements? And we're looking at companies like Bowder Roofing.
We will want to explore this relationship with Mighty in more detail in due course, but in the meantime I think we better drive on with this. I think Lassie may have a question directly from Mighty from Paul.
Okay, yeah, John. Thinking about customer satisfaction and customer feedback, regarding service quality and service quality of the home, what is this telling the council, and how do satisfaction levels compare with comparable landlords?
Okay, thank you. Wow, big question. Customer satisfaction, I think, is one of the strong indicators in this contract, is one of the big drivers in the contract. I would say, before I probably carry on, whilst it's improved, it's not where we want it to be, but the trend is absolutely in the right direction. Probably worth understanding, it's firstly measured by an independent organisation called K-West, and that's the same as the previous arrangements prior to Mighty. So the council, in their wisdom, quite rightly said we wanted to compare apples with apples, and we wanted to just carry on doing that so we could see whether it was actually making a positive difference or not, the new arrangements. And they telephone survey 10% of completed jobs on a weekly basis. And what that is showing is so it's gone up to 83%, which is about 11% increase on previous arrangements. So that puts us here at top quartile for London, so that's 56 authorities or RSLs across London, according to Housemark, again, in the leading independent organisation. So massive improvement, and actually all the other KPIs, key performance indicators, are indicating the same. However, as some of the people earlier on in the evening were saying, there are issues and there are lots of challenges within the contract. So probably worth saying, we also analyse complaints, we also analyse the number of calls that we receive and how many we receive and what type they are. We meet with lots of residents on an individual basis and go to forums and meet with TRAs, and the repairs working group most definitely challenge us very regularly. And so with all of that, there's lots of learning, and we openly and transparently share our action plan of all the things that we see aren't where they should be, and what we believe is the way to make them to the standard that we would expect, and we share that with the client team, and we just go through that. We monitor it on a monthly basis, at least internally we monitor it every week. So lots of lessons learned. Obviously communication is a challenge for any organisation. It's a challenge for a contractor partner like Mighty, alongside the council, alongside a very diverse community that we try to serve. That's never going to be easy, but we are doing lots of things to try and improve that. What else would I guess I'd like to share? Some of the other things that we see, the quality of work. The quality of work wasn't where it wanted to be. So obviously we had TUPEs, so a whole load of staff have transferred from the various organisations. Quality of work wasn't at all what I would expect it to be. So we, apart from lots of training and investment, because there's been a lot, and actually this year we're going to be multi-skilling about 70 staff and pay for all the training. The other things that we've been going on, we've taken on some independent inspectors for quality, in addition to our normal portfolio. Paul and his team as well got some inspectors, got some resident inspectors, and we also got some professional organisations out there. So that has shown an improvement in quality, but we've had to bring in those measures to be able to see what was going wrong and what we needed to do to get it right. So that's part of the answer, I guess, to your question.
I just want to focus on feedback. Is the K-West surveys your own form of feedback? And if not, how do you act on the other feedback?
Okay, so K-West is one of the primary ones, and that's the contractual feedback. The other ones are things like the complaints and meeting with residents, meeting with TRAs, looking at the calls that we receive in the call centre. Are they people chasing up something because it hasn't been done? Are they people chasing something up because an appointment hasn't been honoured? All of those types of things are used to change and shape our service. And so, I guess, just picking up a bit of the other question, part of the benefit of partnering with an organisation like ours is we invest very heavily. The investment on IT and mobile solutions and a variety of things this year alone is astronomical, but absolutely a 10-year contract that has this kind of breadth warrants really good investment, because we absolutely want this to be the flagship or exemplar contract for Mighty in this area, and it's a great opportunity. It's a very forward-thinking contract.
John?
Yes.
What, if any, training and employment opportunities are there available through the council's repairs and maintenance services?
Okay. There's lots. So the contract, I guess probably first start, the contract requires us to have about 15% of our employees to be council residents or local residents, actually Hammersmith Fulham residents, not necessarily council. And we're running around 27% now, so greatly exceeded the targets. And we have a very positive promotion to local employment. So when we employ people, top of the list is, are you a resident in Hammersmith and Fulham? Obviously we need to ensure that we get the right person for the right job, but way up our priority weighting is, are they a local resident? We plug into the local jobs centre, work with the council as far as the various initiatives that are going on with the council. As you would imagine, we have, especially being construction, or construction-based and customer service-based, those two things lend themselves to apprenticeships, traineeships, so, and by far exceeding the targets within the contract. We're in partnership with Fulham Enterprise Studio School now, so we've opened up 6 traineeships, so just around the corner from here where we're meeting today, and we're doing some other ones as well, but we do DIY training days. I think only today we did a work club at Old Oak, so helping people back into employment. So there's lots of things, whether it results in a direct job for Mighty, or training people so they can get a job and get back into the market, or working with our supply chain. So we've moved some of our suppliers from some of the big suppliers to much smaller suppliers that are local to the borough, because we really believe that will bring jobs and employment into the borough, and that's the right thing to do. So some of those things cost us money because it's more expensive to use some of the local suppliers, but it's part of what we do and part of our commitment to the community. So that's some of the strands where we bring employment, but there's lots: work experience, work placements, lots of things that we do.
John, how are the needs of vulnerable groups addressed in the delivery of repairs and maintenance services?
Wow. Okay. It's a challenge because we have such a diverse community that we serve, and the definition of vulnerable is a difficult definition to know really. But we have, I guess, on one level we have handy people on sheltered schemes, as you well know. There's discretionary repairs for vulnerable residents, so lots of repairs that wouldn't be done under the normal repairs policy is a discretionary repair and can be done. We do, I think Paul mentioned it earlier, we do an internal property inspection to all tenanted homes every year, and by doing that what we do is, and actually the first year was quite frightening when we started going around, we go around and some people are really good at reporting repairs and some people aren't so great, and particularly some of the vulnerable residents aren't so great at reporting repairs, and we've gone in there and there've been 4 or 5 or 6 outstanding repairs to that property. So we document all those down, we obviously share all of that with the client, and then we go through those repairs and get those homes up to the standard that certainly all the repairs are done. that will flag up people who have hoarding issues and lots of other things that will need further support. And historically, that would have, people would go in and do a repair, walk out the door, and that will be it. But by this kind of regime, we believe it's more proactive rather than reactive, and it has greater added value to the residents and to the council as a whole. I guess on plan schemes, we have RLOs that assist vulnerable residents that need further support. When we have a plan scheme, we build up a resident profile to see what their needs are and ask them what assistance they need. And part of what we do with our, particularly again with plan schemes, we say, well, when we're doing this, do you want to consider a ramp? Do you want to consider some of these other things that will make this home, this block more accessible? We do aids and adaptations to some extent, but actually that's mainly with another provider. What else?
I think that's probably enough.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Thank you. I think now, Laura, you have a question?
Yes, this question is to Paul. You just mentioned aids and adaptations, actually, which is our next question. So what is your budget for aids and adaptations? And what is your policy on adapting council dwellings?
Basically, the first part of the question is fairly simple. It's basically a £1 million budget for aids adaptations across our housing stock. The policy, I mean, in regards to property services, we don't actually manage the works. The aids and adaptations process is managed via our adult services teams, and they're referred to them in a number of ways, maybe the residents themselves or via hospitals or whatever. And basically the adult services team have a team of OTs who will go down and assess the resident and then make recommendations for work to be carried out. That work is carried out via them. They have their own sort of process. They tender out each of those jobs. There are a different mix of aids and adaptations. There's obviously minor and major. So minor might be just a simple grab rail, set of lever taps, where up to the point of more sort of extensive work such as level access showers and ramps and that sort of thing. So there is a sort of dependent. We do, I think John sort of touched on it, we do some aids and adaptation works, particularly where we're doing plan work such as kitchens and bathrooms. Where we find there's an issue with a resident, or a resident has a need, we'll liaise with the OT team, make an assessment, and then that work will be done as part of the planned works. So we do pick up some of those works. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, in regards of, we have a number of properties where there are, in regards to the voids, that have adaptations, and we do tend to leave them in place as part of the void works. We don't strip them out.
Okay, fine. We did a long session, and I'm coming to Andy for the final question in this session.
Hi, Paul. My question is, what are the financial obligations for repairs and maintenance that fall specifically on leaseholders? And could you sum up what the main issues are that arise with leaseholders?
Okay, thanks, Andy. I mean, basically, obviously, as a council and any landlord, we have to comply with Section 20 legislation. So that means that basically any works where there's obviously a leaseholder contribution of over £250, we have to consult with the residents. So that sort of falls in a number of ways in regards of obviously us carrying out our sort of day-to-day repairs. There may be times when we have a roof problem, and that roof problem actually is quite a little bit more extensive than just an actual repair. So therefore that does cause us an issue, because if it can cause delays in regards to getting the repair done, because of obviously the Section 20 requirements, which has led to a number of complaints and problems in regards of why has my repair not been done. Obviously, as part of the major works, we we consult with residents or leaseholders where we do major works, and obviously their contribution is in regards of their costs is dependent on what's in their lease. So it's lease dependent. I think one of the areas, obviously now in particular, we're starting to look at more investment in the housing stock, larger investment, and one of the issues is what is deemed as an improvement, what is deemed as a leaseholder cost. Specific areas might be external wall insulation, for instance, it can be deemed as an improvement, or is it deemed as part of the lease cost. So the sort of things we're toying with in regards of how we deliver and how we charge that back to leaseholders. A number of different issues we have with leaseholders.
Actually, we've got to cut this off. And Shirley, because she's Shirley's persuaded me that she's got a really quick final question to ask for John. So...
Sorry, Chair. I'm in trouble now. John, you'll remember at the Tenants' Conference in March, one of the things that was identified was the quality of the fixtures that were being used in repairs not being very good always. And we asked at that point if Mighty could go away and devise a way of monitoring that, because you don't currently. Have you done that, or what's your plan, briefly?
Yep, I won't use the name of the manufacturer, but a leading manufacturer manufactured some taps, and they are high quality. They recalled those taps saying there was an issue on one or two that they had in the country, so we recalled all those in White City. So there is a monitoring programme. All of those residents have been written to. The vast majority have been changed, not all of them, actually not through lack of trying, but people are busy working or doing whatever they're doing in a day and haven't given us access. But that is absolutely on our system and tracked, and we know every one of those, where they are, who we wrote to, on what dates, and we are going through that process. So, but yeah, absolutely, that was done within a day or two of that conference.
Well, thank you for that quick answer to that quick question. Gentlemen, it's been a very long session.
Thank you.
And we're very grateful to you. It's been very exhaustive, but in my experience, there is no single issue which is more important to social housing than repairs and maintenance. So we don't make any excuses, but we are very grateful to you for undergoing this harrowing experience so successfully, and we'd like to express our appreciation to you in the conventional manner. Let's hear it for John and Paul.